Welcome to Lesson 2. How and when does learning occur? When I was in my graduate program, I was first introduced to Vygotsky. Lev Vygotsky was a Russian psychologist with some interesting ideas about the space where learning best occurs. He believed that, number one, language plays a central role in development. Number two, development cannot be separated from its social context. Number three, learning can lead to development. And number four, children construct their own knowledge. What made sense to me from these ideas is that we learn through socialization, and in turn, that socialization enhances learning. Children build their understanding of the world in a very personal way based on their experiences. Here's a graphic of his theory, the zone of proximal development. Vygotsky believed that this is the area of development between what a learner can master independently and areas where a learner will need support to master the concepts or ideas. These ideas put forth by Vygotsky go hand in hand with the study of metacognition. Metacognition is simply defined as thinking about your thinking. We do this all the time with phrases like, first I thought, but then I learned, so now I know. Here are some metacognitive thinking statements that you already know. I was just thinking about that, I was wondering if or when, my thoughts exactly. I thought that might be, you hit the nail on the head. Now that I've had time to organize my thoughts, I've been turning it over in my mind. I don't know why I bothered to ask you, since I already knew the answer. Let's zoom back out. Now to some practical examples of learning challenges given that we might use metacognition. In reality, how do we as adults deal with information that is too easy or too difficult on a daily basis? Ever been to a teacher training where you were so bored to tears that you shut down, napped, checked your phone out of sight, passed a note to a nearby colleague, became frustrated when someone else in the audience seemed to ask unending questions about the topic of the presentation, and you perhaps expressed to a colleague on the way out, they could have told us all that in an email. Or one where you walked out of the meeting or training totally confused, and your first instinct is to share your frustration or confusion with a fellow participants. On another note, look at this. Ever seen that before? Why do people head screaming to a CPA when tax season starts? I'll tell you why. When you don't understand a concept or the meaning of the explanation given on tax instructions and you call for help, the person at the IRS answering the phone only reads you what you didn't understand. You might ask a friend who you perceive to be better in math, or just forego that and head to the CPA. As teachers, we try to stay in the zone of proximal development, but given the class size and different learning styles of individual learners, this area can break down. My training has always taught me to rephrase a concept or idea when a student does not comprehend the initial presentation of the material, so I'm sensitive to that need. I'm reminded of a time when I taught a lesson of math to a student which involved 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication. And after I had had 2 failed attempts to teach the concept, the student next to her leaned over, spoke a few sentences, and wrote something on her paper. The light bulb in her head came on, and she completely grasped the concept. I simply wasn't using the right words. This has happened a number of times over my teaching career, and I always find it to be an amazing, humbling experience. Who makes the connection is not as important as the fact that the connection is made. By using techniques like multiple means of presentation, writing notes, lectures, videos, physical acting out, peer tutoring, and by knowing that different learners need information shown, demonstrated, explained in a different way, we can move that learner from the area of what is unknown to the area of proximal development. First I thought, but then I found out, so now I know. Again, please email me with questions, comments, or